सितारे जिसकी गर्दे राह हूँ वो कारवां तू है.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I hope all of you are in the best state of iman and health. Today we are going to start our unit number 3, that is Anansi and 5. Once upon a time, long ago, there lived a creature called Anansi. Sometimes Anansi was a spider, sometimes he was a man, and other times he was a strange mix of the two. Okay, so you can see Anansi. In the story, he is a strange mix of a spider and a man. Alright. Anansi was a trickster and he was having a difficult time. Okay, he was a trickster, which means that he tricked people. Okay, he had no money to buy food for his family. As he walked around the village early one morning, he had a scowl on his face and a growl in his stomach. Passing by a neighbor's house, Anansi heard something that pleased him. The neighbor was an old witch. She was an angry and unpleasant witch who became furious whenever anyone said her name. She hated her name. All through her life, people had laughed or looked surprised when they heard what her name was. Can you guess what her name was? It was Five. Anansi peeked through a gap in the witch's fence. She was stirring her big cooking pot and muttering and mumbling a spell. Okay, so Anansi passed through the house of a witch, a very angry witch who was angry when people called her name. Why? Because her name was Five. She must not like her name now. So when Anansi passed by her house, she was stirring her pot and muttering a spell. Okay. The smoke and sparks were blue and green, so Anansi knew she was cooking up some big magic. Suddenly, she snatched up her staff and started to pound it. On the ground as she walked around the pot. Anansi listened carefully to what she said. I curse anyone who says the word Five to disappear forever. So what was the magic she was cooking? She wanted to curse anyone who said the word Five to disappear forever. Anansi rubbed his hands together and jumped around on his 8 hairy legs. Ah, this could make me some money or get some food on the table for my family. He smiled widely and his sharp teeth sparkled. Anansi rushed to the path that ran along the river bank between the village and the marketplace. Soon everyone who was going to the market would walk past. They would be on the way to buy the delicious yams, beets, pulses, grains that would be piled high in the market. Okay, so where did Anansi go? To a path that led to the market. Anansi set to work and piled up 5 mounds of earth near the path. They looked just like he had planted 5 yams. Then he sat down and waited. So yam is a type of vegetable. So Anansi made it look like he had planted 5 yams. First to come by was little Mrs. Rabbit. She carried a basket full of sweet potato pieces and walked slowly because it was heavy. Anansi stepped forward and smiled. That looks like a big weight. Please rest a while and help me. I don't know how to count, so I cannot tell how many yams I have planted. Mrs. Rabbit was kind, so she stopped. She put her basket and hopped along the row, counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In a flash and a bang, Mrs. Rabbit disappeared. Anansi gobbled down the whole basket of sweet potato in seconds. He licked his lips and sat down again to wait. Not long after, he heard little footsteps on the path and looked up. It was Mr. Duck. He walked along with his chest held high and his feet made a slip-slap sound on the path. He had a bag with his lunch in it by his side. Mr. Duck stopped when he saw Anansi and asked him how he was. Anansi put on a glum expression. Glum means sad. Mr. Duck, I have no idea how to count my yam plants. Can you help me, please? Mr. Duck bobbed his head. Mr. Duck bobbed his head and puffed out his chest even further. Well, Anansi, he said, it is quite simple. Start with 1, then it's 2, 3, 4, and 5. Mr. Duck disappeared instantly. Anansi ate up the lunch. So, by Anansi's trick, both Mrs. Rabbit and Mr. Duck have appeared, and Anansi have eaten their food. Now I know you will be wondering about Anansi's family. Did he think about them? Did he save any food for them? No, he didn't. He ate everything without a thought about any of them. So basically, Anansi was very greedy. He did not think once about his family. Next to come along on her way to the market to buy some tasty treats was Miss Frog. She did not stop when Anansi called after her. Hey, please, help me count my plants. She laughed. No way, count them by yourself, she called over her shoulder as she hopped away. So Mrs. Frog, Miss Frog did not fall into Anansi's trap. It did not bother Anansi too much because he knew there would be plenty more chances for him to try his trick out. He imagined what delicious foods he would find. He did not imagine taking any to his hungry children. He was going to eat as much as he could fit in his stomach and then come back and try the trick again on another day. So Anansi was only imagining for himself that how many types of food he will get to eat. He did not worry or think even once about his children, which shows that he was not a good person. He was very greedy and selfish. A scurrying sound pulled Anansi out of his daydream. It was Mrs. Shrew. On her tiny back she had a huge load of freshly made pies that she was hoping to sell. The load was 3 times her size and her face was red from the effort she was making. So Mrs. Shrew had made pies to sell in the market. Okay. Oh, Lady Shrew, how nice to see you. Sit a while and rest. I need your help to count my plants. And you can share your wisdom with me. Anansi grinned and showed all his sharp teeth. He was trying hard to be charming because he really wanted to eat all the pies. Mrs. Shrew was not a fool. She could see Anansi's eyes glisten as he looked at the pies. Well, Anansi, you are kind. I'm tired. She put down her load. How can I help? I can't count, he lied. Can you count my yam mounds for me? Mrs. Shrew smiled. She walked to the nearest mound and stood on it. She pointed to the mound that was furthest away from her. 1, 2, 3, 4, and this one, she clearly said. Anansi frowned. Do it again. Say all the numbers, he said. 1, 2, 3, 4, and this one that I'm sitting on, Mrs. Shrew spoke slowly and clearly. A flash of anger passed over Anansi's face. Come on, say them properly. He was finding it difficult to keep a smile on his face. Now Anansi was getting angry. Why? Because his trick wasn't working. Again, Mrs. Shrew smiled sweetly and counted slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4, and this one here. She pointed to the mound beneath her feet. Oh, say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, shouted Anansi. Instantly, in a big burst of sparks, he disappeared. Mrs. Shrew picked up her load and set off to the market. She would sell these pies and buy mouth-watering delicacies for her family. So you see, Mrs. Shrew was a good person. Why? Because she was working so hard for her family, whereas Anansi was very greedy. That was all for today. Stay blessed, all of you. Allah Hafiz.